And I love talking with drummers, David, too, all musicians, but drummers especially, because I am one. And, we all have our different influences. And I love talking with folks about their guy or their guys or women drummers as well. But say more about Carl Palmer and why he's your guy for you.
Well, Carl Palmer was really the first drummer that I heard in rock that blew my mind and connected with me. I was listening to the Beatles. I was listening to Zeppelin. I was listening to The Who, early Cheap Trick, Queen, AC/DC, early stuff. This is 77, 76, even 75, really early in a lot of these bands. And the music was captivating to me. I was a huge Kiss fan. I was listening to, Kiss Alive and Destroyer, and the music, the image, the attitude, so much of it was connecting with me. And then, but the drumming, the great thing about the drumming is I was learning to play a lot of that drumming. And so that was very fulfilling. Like, I love the song. I love playing to it. I love learning the parts, and it was accessible. Even though there were a lot of really cool nuances, a lot of that stuff I could learn to play. And then when I saw the ELP live album, and it was around 75, 76, whenever it was, and I saw the back of the record, and I saw this giant single-headed concert tom monstrosity. I'd never seen anything like it. It was the most unique, incredible drum kit ever. And I heard the playing on it, which was even more incredible. And Carl was just like a Buddy Rich of rock. And I had heard Buddy, and I saw Buddy many times, but the first time I saw him was I was around 8 or 9 years old. He came to play my high school. So we were able to go to the show because it was all ages. It was in the afternoon, and my brother and parents could take me, and it wasn't a nightclub or anything. So I went to my high school auditorium, saw Buddy Rich. I didn't know if I wanted to quit or keep practicing. Same thing everybody says after they see Buddy for the first time.
That's amazing.
And so I hear this Emerson, Lake and Palmer record, and I start checking them out more and listening to other stuff and hearing even what Carl was doing in Lucky Man, their first big hit from 1970, which I hadn't heard. Obviously, I was 3 years old or whatever at the time. So a few years later, now I'm going back catalog and kind of checking everything out because I'm inspired. And I'm just listening to one amazing drum part after the next. And I couldn't play any of that stuff. So I was like, this is incredible. And I was just very inspired. And the rest is history. I've got a lot of amazing Carl Palmer moments that have happened since then. And between the drum kit and the book and doing a DVD with Carl, drumming on stage with Carl. I was at his masterclass recently in Philadelphia. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I just saw a picture of you on the panel with him.
Yep. Right? And the masterclass, I have to tell you, it was so great. I can't wait for next year's. Everybody needs to attend this. It is so, if you play music, drums, keys, guitar, bass, vocals, any of those instruments, you got to come to this. It's really just, it was incredible. And so, it's amazing how sometimes our idols and icons can become friends and partners. And I'm
pretty awesome.
I'm just blessed. I think all the hard work, has just given me some blessings and given me these opportunities to do some new things with iconic idols.
And, with the book Crash, I was curious too, is there anybody's drum set or even in the museum that you had wanted to be in the book but weren't able to get, or another sort of dream kit that you'd love to have for the museum?
Well, there's lots, right? I mean, with drummers and drumming, as there's like that T-shirt that has 400 drums on the front and the big tag at the top is just one more drum. How many more drums do you need? Just one more drum.
That's right.
But the fact is that the dream kit and the kit that drove the whole project and that was inspirational to me for my entire life is the Carl Palmer stainless steel kit that's on the cover. I am 8 years old. I see the back of the album. I see the kit, I hear the drumming, I hear the sound of the drums, which I also thought was very unique and incredible. And I dreamt of that kit. I would look as a kid, because remember, there's no YouTube, no internet. The only way you could see the drum kit is if it popped up in a magazine or you saw it on an album. And ELP did some albums, but they didn't put a picture of the drum kit on very many of them. In fact, I'm only aware of that drum kit being on 2 albums. The live one I saw, which was a long, blurry shot. You really couldn't see much about the kit other than, the grandiosity of it and a little bit of detail. And then on Works Volume 2, there's a picture of Carl next to the kit, and you can see the back right of the kit. So the left, as you're looking at it from the front, you can see couple of the floor toms and side toms and the engravings, and you can get an idea of it there. And it was just always so extraordinary. And I dreamt of that kit. And I remember telling my parents, I got to have this drum kit. And they're like, David, please, he's a wealthy rock star in London. You're an up and coming one-eyed kid in Arlington. We barely can, put food on the table and keep our jobs. And you're worrying about some grandiose rock star drum kit. Like you're out. They just thought I had rocks in my head. And then as we go on, then Carl, when ELP broke up, Carl was going to auction the kit off, but instead he sold it to Ringo Starr, who bought it for his son, Zach. Well, then my parents loved to rib me. Like, yeah, now you're really going to get the drum kit. The richest drummer in the world just bought it. So now if it happened to be unattainable up until now it's really unattainable. Like, just forget it. If we sold everything we had times 100, we couldn't touch what Ringo would want for it. So it just was out of reach. As the years went on, I would always kind of keep my ear to the ground. I actually ended up working with Ringo for a few years. I built studios for him and did some projects which were really, incredible to be a part of that. And I inquired as to whether I could buy the drum kit at that time. I was in a much better place in my career. I didn't have any idea what it was worth, but I just, was so into it that I wanted to find out. And it just came back through his team. Like, no, forget about the drum kit. I think it happened to be that had been in storage. Ringo wasn't even thinking about it. And he was probably thinking, well, Zach might still want it. I don't need to sell the drum kit. So then we fast forward to 2015. Right? So what are we, 40 years from, we're 40 years from the first time I see the drum kit.
I love it.
On the album cover. And I find out that Ringo Starr is auctioning off the drum kit from Julian's auction.
Wow.
So I call Darren Julian when I find this out, because the auction hasn't even been announced yet. I find out through Ringo's world, right? So I call Darren. And I go, is this true? Do you have Carl Palmer's drum kit from Ringo? And he goes, yeah, it's going to be in our auction. I said, Darren, let me tell you the story. I start with, about my eye, my childhood, my trauma, my parents, every single heartstring I'm pulling. And Darren finishes listening to the story. Such a great guy. I love Darren. Genius auctioneer and collector's, expert. And he finishes listening to my story, and I go, he goes, David, that is the most unbelievable story I've ever heard in my life. And he goes, you have to have this drum kit. And I go, yes, that's exactly what I think too. So we'll make a deal. He goes, no, I'll give you a bidder number. So I'm like, right. I was like going crazy, right? The anxiety of that. I'm just thinking, oh no, I'm done. What if somebody, rich bids on the thing? I'm done. And so it turns out that the auction came and Ringo had multiple drum kits he was selling. That was the only one that wasn't his, that he owned it, but it wasn't a Ringo Starr drum kit.
Right.
But one of the kits the kit he played on Ed Sullivan, sold, and it was before Carl Palmer's kit came to the auction block, right? Because in an auction they're numbered and they go one after the other, of course. So his Sullivan kit was first, and it sold for over $2 million to the owner of the Colts, who is rich.
Yes, Jim Irsay, right?
Jim Irsay, and so he bought the thing, and I just remember calling Julian's freaking out. Is he going to bid on the ELP kit? They're like, calm down. We can't tell you that. And so I'm like, oh. So to me, it represented more than an item. At the end of the day, it's an item, and an item only has so much significance, right? No matter what. It just had so many memories and moments that I had around it. So the item itself just was an item, but the memories that were personal to my life and my achievements and overcoming a lot of odds along the way, that was associated with the kit in a very unique way. And of course, Carl's playing. So this was just one giant bundle of inspiration that I really wanted to bring home. And it was before the book and before the museum. So it was just, in this moment. So the auction comes and I win the auction.
It's amazing.
And I'm looking up at the sky after I won it, about to cry. My mom had passed away in 2004, my dad in 96. And I'm just saying to them, can you believe this? And from that, of course, my collaborations with Carl Palmer himself, having now studied with him, gone to his master class, drummed on stage with him, co-produced and co-mixed a DVD that's Carl Palmer's ELP Legacy DVD that I'm drumming on and that I mixed with Carl. And now doing other collaborations with Carl and his great manager, Bruce Pilato. It's just a dream come true. He's as extraordinary of a person as he is a drummer and inspiration. And look at what he's doing for people. Look at the legacy he's leaving. Yeah. To take the time out to do a master class,
right,
and to say, okay, I'm going to leave my legacy and some of the things I've learned with generations to come. He doesn't have to do that.
Right.
But he's doing it. And he's creating something much bigger, just like he did with all the bands that he's been a huge part of, that they'll be with us for eternity. He's doing the same thing, helping musicians now too. So to be a part of that in any way is incredible. And then that kit, from inspiring me those 40 years, it inspired the book, it inspired the foundation, it inspired the museum. This thing is just incredible.